Hello. Today we're going to be learning about conditional statements. A conditional statement is a statement that is written in the if-then form. So we would read a statement if P then Q, where P and Q are statements and they will have identified truth value according to what we know about them. Typically in geometry, when we know P is true, then we will know Q is true. That's where we're leaning towards going with the if P then Q statements. In symbol notation, we have P, then we have the arrow that means implies. So we have if P then Q. So P implies Q. And we would read that either P implies Q or if P then Q. This notation right here is very common to see. So P is the hypothesis. It typically follows the word if. It's not always, but typically it becomes first and it follows the word if. Q is the conclusion, and it typically follows the word then and comes second in our statement. So in our example, if a person lives in Texas, then they are an American. So a person lives in Texas is our hypothesis, then they are American is our conclusion. So let's look at another example here. Conditional, if a person lives in Texas and they are American. We have other statements that can be created off of the conditional. So the converse, inverse, and contrapositive. We're going to use that same P implies Q notation, only we're going to change it and adjust it a little bit. So we're going to have the converse, which is Q implies P. The converse in this case would be if a person is an American, then they live in Texas. So we simply reverse the Q and P statements. And then for the inverse, we will negate P and negate Q. So if a person does not live in Texas, then they are not an American. So you can see that we took that first P statement, the first hypothesis, if a person lives in Texas, and we simply made it not, put it the word not, or made it the opposite value. And then we have the contrapositive. If a person is not an American, then they do not live in Texas. So we negated again, both Q and P, but we reversed them and made the not Q the hypothesis in the contrapositive. Now, something that is important about this is if the conditional is true, the contrapositive will have the same truth value. So if the conditional is true, the contrapositive will be true. Or if the conditional is false, the contrapositive will be false. And the same way will be the converse and the inverse will be connected in a very similar way. The converse in this case is false, and therefore the inverse will also be false. So when we're writing these, sometimes it is a helpful check to know that the conditional and contrapositive will have the same truth value, to know that we have written them correctly. So now we're going to have two examples. And this is going to be a great opportunity for you, if you would like to pause the video now, then you can pause and then write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive, and then check your work. So our conditional is if an animal is a dog, then it is a mammal. The conclusion. The converse of this would be as if an animal is a mammal, then it is a dog. So we simply reverse the P and the Q statements to get Q implies P. And then the inverse, which is our third statement here, we simply negate P and Q and keep them in the same order. So we have not P and then not Q. And then for the contrapositive, we have not Q and then not P. And once again, if an animal is a dog, then it is a mammal. That has that is true. So we will see the contrapositive down here also to be true. If an animal is not a mammal, then it is not a dog. And then the converse will be false. It is possible for all four statements to be true, but again, the conditional and the contrapositive will have the same truth value, and the converse and the inverse will have the same truth value. So one more example. If it is the weekend, then it is Sunday. This statement is true. Oh. Okay. So in this example, if it is the weekend, then it is Sunday. This statement is false. So we start with a false conditional. And if you want to pause the video here and then write your examples and then see what the results are in just a second, now would be the time to do that. All right. So the converse of this conditional is that if it is Sunday, then it is the weekend. This statement is true. And the inverse of the original statement, so we go back to the original statement every time, the P and the Q, and then the converse was Q implies P, this will be not P and then not Q in order to write the inverse. It will have the same truth value as the converse. So in this case, the converse is true. So therefore, the inverse will be true. If it is not the weekend, then it cannot be Sunday, or it is not Sunday in this case. And the contrapositive, it is not Sunday, then it is not the weekend. So our original conditional was false. Our contrapositive will also be false. This will always align. The conditional and the contrapositive will have the same truth value. And the converse and the inverse will have the same truth value. They are connected, and then the conditional and the contrapositive are connected in their truth value. All right, so that wraps up our lesson on conditional statements. Stay tuned for more great lessons.